Hey, I'm so glad that you made it on this page on bizbuddy.com and you're watching this video. And what I want to tell you is that, you don't really know me, right? My name is Eric Worrell. I am an entrepreneur at heart. I've always been this way, but I have gone back and forth of being an entrepreneur, being an employee, being an entrepreneur, being an employee. And frankly, both of them were pretty frustrating at certain times. But over time, I started to learn things from different business gurus, even from therapists, business coaches, all sorts of things. And I want to be able to make a perfect playlist of all these tools, techniques, and tactics for you to eliminate the emotional dips of being an entrepreneur. So kind of skip the dip, right, is the saying. So this, what you're seeing on the screen right here, is a financial runway calculator that is going to help you figure out what your emergency fund should be as an entrepreneur, and especially if you haven't started the business yet. This is going to be super effective for you. But even if you're in the business right now, this is going to be really helpful for you to understand how different income sources can help create more of a safety net for you. And if you watched my previous video, the one where we're talking about risk compensation, basically the safer you feel, the more comfortable you are making risk and taking swings in business. Well, that's what this calculator is designed to do. Now, looking at this calculator, I will admit it kind of looks ugly, right? This is like something that could have been built on my website and been a really nice calculator for people. But what I'm doing right now is practicing something called bullets versus cannonballs. So Jim Collins is a business guru who I've learned quite a bit from reading his books. And he has this concept where he basically says business is kind of like being on this warship, right? And you're on this warship, but you only have so much gunpowder. And that gunpowder is enough for 5 bullets and 1 cannonball. And the mistake a lot of business owners make is all of a sudden they see maybe a pirate ship coming towards them and they panic and they go, fire a cannonball at this. And they use up all of their gunpowder representing your resources, right? Your time, your money, your energy. They use it all up on this first big idea and then they miss, right? So now when that pirate ship gets a little bit closer and now they're just firing little bullets at it, it's not really making an impact and they're going to be in trouble. So as a business owner, there's a lot of times that you can fire little tests instead of going and just firing the big cannonball day one. So I'm actually living that right now with what content that you're seeing and this actual calculator on the screen. What I am doing is I decided I have a playlist I want to create that is helping people skip the emotional dips. And I have about 20 different videos that I want to do, but I was like, why don't I start with 4 or 5, all right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect them into this financial runway calculator. And I would love for this to be on my website in this beautiful calculator. But I want to see how many people are willing to opt in to get access to this calculator. And as I see people opting in, at a certain point, I'm going to say, you know what? This idea is working. Let's invest more time and capital into creating this calculator on the website, because I know that this funnel, this funnel of people coming from YouTube is actually interested in this topic, rather than me using all my gunpowder and then wasting resources and time on something I didn't need. So just something worth sharing with you right there, because in your business, this can happen. One of the best examples I've seen is some people that want to start a restaurant, right? And they're like, they just start a restaurant day one and they don't realize how much money it costs to start a restaurant. You got to lease out a space, branding, design, menus, chefs, kitchen, cookware, dishware, everything, right? Crazy amount. But if they had fired some bullets first, they may have been able to build their way up into that decision. So that may look like a food truck isn't as much gunpowder, so to speak, right? You can launch a food truck way easier than you can launch a restaurant. If you go even a step further into doing a test, you could do a private chef kind of business where you show up and you cook in their kitchen. You don't even need any kitchen supplies really, because you're cooking in their kitchen. And then what you're doing is you're seeing if people like your cooking and your food, and you're also building a personal brand so that then maybe you can graduate to the food truck and graduate to the restaurant. So you can understand the idea of bullets versus cannonballs. So at this point, let's take a look at this calculator. So current personal emergency fund. This is just how much money you have in your current emergency fund. Let's say it's $8,000, all right? So then current business startup savings. So this is applicable to somebody who is thinking about starting a business. Let's say that you have $1,000 saved up. So this is going to be fine too if you're already in a business, because there's a really valid point for you coming up here. So let's say that the business startup costs are $5,000. If you're not sure what they are in your particular industry, just look it up, Google it. Like Google will be like, oh, like it costs like $5,000 to start a power washing business, and here's why. Boom, 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 right? Like the information's out there. There's so much information out there, way too much information out there. what is your monthly W-2 earnings after tax? So like, what is your net take-home pay from your job if you're currently employed? Let's just say that it's $4,400. Now, there are like little kind of somewhat confusing little tool tips in here that you can look at. You can get into these, but basically it's just giving you advice on like, oh, I'm paid bi-weekly. What does that mean? Like my net income's this. Just little rules of thumbs to figure out what this number is going to be. Now, this one, monthly side hustle. So this might be gig economy, driving for Uber Eats, like doing Uber, Lyft. I don't know. There's so many of them now. We're going to put that at 0 because who wants to do that garbage, right? So, but we're going to get back to it. Monthly expenses. Let's say you live pretty lean and your monthly expenses are $3,000. This is like more so living expenses, rent, food, utilities, the basics, not like that, European trip that you're going on or something like that. That's not included with this. All right. So immediately what this calculator does is it populates a lot of data. Basically, your net monthly income is $1,400. And now what you want to say is, what's your emergency fund goal in months? All right. If you're going to become an entrepreneur, they recommend at least 3 to 6 months for a person with a job. As an entrepreneur, I recommend anywhere from 6 to 12. All right. And again, this goes back to this risk compensation theory, where the more safety you feel as an entrepreneur, the more you're able to operate as an entrepreneur, because it's a risky endeavor being an entrepreneur. So the higher this number, if we are at 6, if it goes to 9, that's even better, but we're going to keep it at 6. So our emergency fund target is simply $18,000. That is what our monthly expenses is, $3,000 times our emergency fund goal of 6. Based on these numbers, it is going to take 7 months to build up that emergency fund. And if you're trying to start a business, it's going to take you 10 months to accommodate for the business startup costs. So when you look at that and you're like, let's say you're thinking about starting a business, you're like, geez, like 10 months, like I don't want to get started in 10 months. Like I want to get started now, but you also don't want to get started from this very weak position where you have no emergency fund, you have no cash cushion. There's no safety net underneath you when you're walking across that wire of entrepreneurship. So this is what I want to focus on, is the monthly side hustle earnings after tax. I know it's not the most sexy thing in the world to do a side hustle, especially if it's like, I don't know, you're driving people around in Uber or whatever it might be, but it's a very, very cool thing from a psychological standpoint as an entrepreneur. Let's say that you start doing it and you start making $1,000 a month after tax. Well, first of all, let's look at our timelines here. We went from 7 months to 4.2 for your emergency fund. And then we also, including the startup cost, went down to 5.8 months. So 10 months down to 6. Now, if you want to get really aggressive, let's say that you cut out $500 a month of your monthly expenses. Maybe you just shop at a different grocery store, you cut out a couple meals, that kind of thing. What does this look like now? Well, look at this. Now, 2.5 months to your emergency fund and 4 months to the emergency fund and startup costs. All right. So this is a fun calculator, and I'm showing you specifically this with you playing with the numbers because I want you to look at your actual financial situation right now. You can just leave out the startup costs in that if you've already started the business. But I want you to understand like how they factor in to this overall situation. Now, the cool thing is there's another box down here. What is your projected monthly net income in the business? Now, which one was it? Was it the this one here, the exaggerated expectation? So we exaggerate what's going to happen. Don't go crazy with this. Don't say I'm going to make $40,000 my first month in business. Let's just say it's $1,000. Well, what ends up happening with that is you would end up having this much runway in months without a side hustle income. 10 months. If you're making $1,000, right? If it's only 0, you'd only have 6 months, right? Because that's what you saved up for. But what are you actually making in the business? Let's say you're actually net profiting $1,000. Now, your business could all of a sudden stop making money and still last for 10 months. But with a side hustle, it's 30 months. All right. Let's see if we can really make this connect and click in. Basically, this side hustle, if you were to continue doing it and you're making $1,000 a month, does it suck that you're running a business and also driving Uber at night? Absolutely. But when you take that out, you basically have a 10-month cash cushion based on these numbers. Now, let's say it's a business that isn't profitable right out the gates. You only have 6 months. All right. So again, this is where you can start playing with this. But if you continue to side hustle on the side, now you have 10 months of cash cushion, right? This is where it's really cool. If the business starts to make a little money, now we have 30 months with the side hustle. I think the side hustle, gig economy stuff is such a trap for so many people, right? Because what they do is they get into it because they're like, I like freedom and flexibility, but they don't account for the fact that you're putting miles on your car, or there's other hidden costs with it. And it's also can be hard to do 40, 45 hours a week. But if you're able to do it at prime time locations, and you know at the drop of a hat, you can open up your phone, and just like turning on a faucet, you can just get money coming into your pocket within the next hour. That is something that is going to add to your safety net as an entrepreneur. So again, what I recommend is on this page is there's a spot for you to put your email address. I'm going to give you a copy of this financial runway calculator. I'm going to explain how you can make a copy for yourself. And I'm also going to give you a SMART goal worksheet, and that is for entrepreneurs. So if you haven't actually declared to yourself yet that I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to do X by Y, that's what that SMART goal worksheet is for. So for you, it may be the combination of this financial runway calculator and saying, you know what? I am going to, in the next 4 months, save up enough money to have a healthy emergency fund and have the startup costs accounted for this business I want to launch. And then again, if you've already started up the business, you just simply take out the startup cost savings out of the equation. But you can start to play with these two resources and then make a declaration. I am an entrepreneur. I will save up X by Y to start this business by this date. All right. That's what the SMART goal worksheet is for. All right, guys, thank you for putting your email in there, and just trust and know that I do not want to abuse that trust that you're giving me. If you're putting your email in there to get these resources, it is because I want to give you updates on new cool techniques, tips, and tactics to be able to skip the emotional dips of entrepreneurship. So I'm going to let you know about new additions to the workbook that are going to help you and help you make sure that you become the entrepreneur that you're supposed to be.